really know if recording is the best way to go on this, but I'm going to do it anyway. All right, so I'm going to click on the assessment itself. All right, there's a lot going on in this document, but a lot of it is definitions, really just kind of getting you thinking along the lines of what I'm asking you to do. All right, so this assessment is asking you to design an activity. So designing an activity. If you think about the discussions, I'm sorry, the investigations, they are really just mini versions of this assessment. They're really just kind of probing you and just getting you to a point where you're thinking in the, like a little bit of the outside the box, just kind of trying to incorporate your own personal experiences and such, so that you can develop activities that would be appropriate for the grade level that you're interested in. Now, I'm fully aware that we haven't covered all the material in the course, so there are some topics that you may choose to engage with that we haven't covered yet, but that's perfectly okay, and you'll see why in a few minutes. All right, so classroom activities, the term classroom activities applies to a wide range of skill-based games, strategies, and interactive experiences that support students' educational development. The goal of most activities is to enhance students' understanding, skill, or effectiveness in a specific area by engaging multiple styles of learning. Classroom activities can also serve to engage students by exposing them to interesting and often entertaining applications of the curriculum. Teamwork, critical thinking, and problem solving are just a few direct consequences of engaging in classroom activities. A well-designed activity will encourage students to explore content beyond traditional skill-based knowledge, but will never be so overbearing that students feel as though it is a punishment. Right? That's a key component there, because the mentality for a lot of individuals, teachers, is that they think activity, busy work, put this project together, and that's going to keep you busy for the next month. And what did the students get out of it? Not really sure that I care. You know what they got out of it? They got out of my hair. That's what they got out of it. You know, so that's not what we're really going for. We want to come up with activities that are going to be meaningful and also engage with the different learning styles. There are several types of classroom activities that teachers can incorporate into their classes. These are the type of activities that make sense in a math class are as follows: content-based, application-based, technology-based, and then collaboration activities. So the content is based on the mathematics itself. Application is applying the math to some real-world phenomenon. Technology is using mathematical hardware, software to solve content-based and application-based activities, or really. So that's a little bit of a twist. You can have the focus of an activity be technology-based, but it has to serve the purpose of supporting mathematical learning. Otherwise, it's not a mathematical activity. All right. Then it becomes a technology activity, which is a different subject area. All right. Collaboration activities, that's a different story, because they involve teamwork, communication, and tolerance. Any of the above can be executed in collaborative format. So it's just a question of, do you want to allow content-based activities to be in collaborative format, or technology-based, or any of the other ones, right? So the other aspect that you have to account for is whether or not you're looking at a formative or a summative assessment. Okay, so there's a lot of words involved here, but the general gist that a lot of people walk away from, and this is definitely an oversimplification, but the gist is that formative typically is ungraded feedback that helps the learning process. Summative is end unit, what have you learned, all right? So if you have those ideas in mind, you don't really need a dictionary definition to help you determine whether you're dealing with a summative or a formative assessment. You just really just kind of have an idea in your mind. What a lot of folks struggle with in the elementary level is coming up with formative assessments, pencil paper formative assessments that don't involve grades that the students will take seriously, right? And depending on your population, depending on the age group, you may have mixed results when it comes to that sort of thing, but the whole idea is to collect information to not only know whether or not your teaching practice is working the way it should, but also to make a determination of where the students are in their learning, right? So, how do you get, like, because what happens is a lot of times, a teacher will start off a unit with a pre-test, for example. Take this pre-test, right? Is it graded? Yeah, right, I better try. Then they find out it's not graded, right? That's the last time they're trying on a pretest, Is it graded? No. All right, I did one of them, that's all I knew, So, I mean, I'm speaking like a middle school, high school student, but it really could be any age group. Like, how am I supposed to know this is a pretest? We haven't learned the material yet, So that's part of the challenge, the pencil paper component of it. What people have struggled with when it comes to formative, aside from the pencil paper component, is the fact that sometimes it's not a particular task. Sometimes you're observing the student in their natural habitat and you notice that they're implementing something that you have covered in class, and then you can just account for that in their assessment. But you got to understand that assessment doesn't always take the form of a grade, right? Sometimes it's you did that, check, right? Smiley face. If you've ever received one of the badges in Blackboard from a teacher, like a great job badge, that's a formative feedback, an ungraded bit of formative feedback. It definitely works a little bit better with the younger ones to give them a sticker without a grade than it does for older students, but it's something, it's an indication of a job well done. All right. Rubrics. So a rubric scoring tool that explicitly represents the performance expectations for an assignment or a piece of work. Rubric divides the assigned work into component parts and provides clear descriptions of the characteristics of the works associated with each component at varying levels of mastery. Rubrics can be used for a wide array of assignments, papers, projects, oral presentations, artistic performance, group projects, etc. And sometimes the student will never see the rubric. Sometimes the rubric is something that you maintain personally, and you just use it to remind you how you're rating the individuals. I remember when I was coaching basketball, the players never saw my rubric. All I did was I just had a standard of what am I looking for, right? What am I looking for out of each player? And so I had my clipboard and I had my scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And 1 meant one thing, 2 meant something else, 3 meant something else. And I just made a note and I reviewed it later on. It wasn't a matter of like, all right, the kid who got the most 5s was the starting player. It didn't play out like that. It was a way for me to have like a little scoring key to say, oh yeah, he needs to work on his free throws. He needs to work on his jump shot. He needs to work on his layups. And he just doesn't play defense. Like, he just decides he doesn't want to play defense. Well, you're not playing defense, you're not playing. So, that's part of it, where you're not assigning a numerical grade, but you are drawing conclusions based off of that information, right? So that's really just kind of talking about the advantages of rubrics. So your task, choose one of the topics from the list, typo, list attached. Right, it's in a separate file. Damn it, it's the next gen standards. And using the concepts discussed in class, develop an activity of your choosing. So you have free reign to decide whatever the grade level is, K through 3. Any task, and like, we're not doing not a whole unit. You just want one single topic. Create an activity task related to that topic. All right. So we're starting on a micro level, because if you get it right on the micro level, then when you start propagating it out to fill out an entire curriculum, you're going to have a robust curriculum that's going to be very meaningful and very effective. All right. You'll have to account for these 10 components. you got to give me the activity topic. I think that makes sense. The rationale, why you selected it. All right. A meaningful and thoughtful explanation is all I really need on that. But something like, yeah, I've always been really good at adding, so that's why I select that. That's not going to fly. You know, you got to give me some like significant rationale as to why you selected that topic. Prior knowledge required. All right. So if you're talking about counting, for example, you may want to discuss, or you may want to account for the fact that they know how to sort and compare and things like that. So when we look at the next document in a second, you're going to see that I've given you the K through 3 curriculum standards so that you can see what comes before and what comes after. Objectives, like what is it that they should be working towards in the activity? What are the student outcomes? What should be the result of the activity? Like what should they be learning? Materials that they're going to need. You know, and you know, we're talking about young ones, so you're providing those. You know, because most of the time, unless you're a veteran teacher who's got the whole thing mapped out, you're probably not sending this home in your supply list over the summer. You know, so you can't expect that the parents are going to supply the kids with the materials that you request at a moment's notice. And I'll tell you right now, public school teachers, private school is a different story. Public school teachers, the quickest way to piss off the parents is to start repeatedly telling them, oh, by the way, on Monday, have your kid bring this. By the way, next Tuesday, have them bring that. It does not fly, right? So if you're not getting those materials, then find some materials that are on hand or something that easily are procured and go from there. Procedures, how does the activity work? Assessment and evaluation, formative or summative. So how are you going to know that they learned what they're supposed to learn, right? And if you're grading them, what are the criteria for the grade, right? Is it formative or summative, right? Or is this an activity like not an end unit, but a summative could be like you just learned how to add, for example, add single digit numbers. The summative activity is the demonstration of the ability to add single digit numbers, right? So in some capacity, you need a way to evaluate that. If it's formative, you know, how are you assessing and evaluating that? You know, are you going the badge route? Are you giving the stickers? Are you going with thumbs up? Or are you gonna, like, what are you gonna do? Is it gonna be some kind of reward? A video demonstration of the activity. So it is a physical activity, right? So something that the students have to do. So I want to see it. You know, it's not enough to tell me what it is. I want to actually see a video of the activity being carried out. All right. If you feel free to have somebody else do it. Like if you don't want, if you're a little camera shy, and you can coax somebody else to do the performance for you based on the activity, that's not a bad idea. And I'll tell you right now, I don't know how many of you have children or siblings that are young. If you have a young one living with you and you're developing an activity, why not have them be the star of the show? Because if they can understand what you're asking them to do, then your directions are probably pretty good. All right. And then also include a rubric. All right. And again, this rubric is not necessarily, especially for the young ones. I mean, just think back to K through 3 when you were in any of those grades. Did you ever see a rubric? I mean, did you ever even know what a rubric was? I mean, some of you didn't even know what a rubric was until this very moment, right? So here's the rubric that you will be assessed on for this assessment, right? So this assessment will have 2 components, the Mathematica, typo for somebody, right? Mathematics, the damn A key is next to the S key. Then it didn't, I guess it underlined it in red, I just didn't see it. So 36 possible points for the mathematics and content. And then presentation and observation is 24 points. And you can see full credit, 2/3 credit, 1/3 credit, and 0. And I think I think it's pretty straightforward in terms of what I'm looking for here. Efficient strategies to complete the task, deep understanding of the course. Some of it's a little, I mean, straightforward, but some of it's a little subjective. But the exemplary categories, if you're detailed and very explicit in your explanations, you don't cut corners, and then you can expect all those points, right? I don't go looking to take the points away. You just really just don't give me a reason to take them away, and you're fine, right? So that's that. Now let me kick on over to the next gen topics, all right? So the next gen topics, state standards, truncated version, because I have that, I mean, we all have access to the full blown set of K through 12 standards for the state. And if you look through it, it's a disaster. Whoever came up with that organizational strategy is like, they're just trying to impress somebody, I don't know, but it wasn't us, right? So the standards account for mathematical practices. This is there's a reason why they call it standards. This is consistent throughout all K through 12. There's weird ones here where they talk about attend to precision, where it's like, okay, somebody thinks they're Shakespeare when they write this kind of stuff. But really it's just saying, be precise. You know, like when students are learning about calculations, they should learn how to be precise, right? So things like that. Model with mathematics is talking about using the math and applying it to the real world and all that good stuff. So you have the PreK curriculum, counting and cardinality, which we've talked about, operation and algebraic thinking, measurement and data, all the subtopics. Each one of these numbers, each one of these subtopics here. So under geometry, for example, number 2, that could be the topic, for example, of the activity that you design. All right. So it doesn't have to be an entire category. You see how this is all measurement and data? That's a unit, right? This is a whole unit. Each one of these, like 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, each one of those is a topic. This activity that you're developing is related specifically to a topic. So maybe you want your topic to be count to 100 by ones, beginning from any given number, instead of beginning at 1. And you can see the prior knowledge would be that they can count to 100 by ones and by tens, right? If it's an A-B kind of situation, you can just choose one of them. We look at those as 2 separate strands. So if you want just 2A versus just 2B, you don't have to do them both together in the activity. If it makes sense to put them together, that's fine, all right? But you can see each one of these, it gets a little bit easier to understand what I'm asking you, because I'm not asking you to do all these things, I'm just asking you to do one of them. Compose larger shapes from smaller or similar shapes, all right? So I leave it up to you to decide what grade level, what topic, because some of us want to be based off of what I've read in your information sheets and discussion boards, which I haven't had a chance to grade, but I have read. Some of us want to be pre-K, some of us want to be 3rd grade teachers, and everything in between, right? So some of us want to strengthen our mathematical skills, and we don't care what grade we're going to be, and it's all up to you how you want to take this and run with it. I give you full license, all right? The last bit here is the Cunningham sample rubrics and checklists. Staff developer from way back when gave us some training, and part of the training was this big old, look, puppies, big old packet of different rubrics, different ways that you can create rubrics for different things, math, algebra, scientific experiments, oral speaking, and all sorts of different possibilities, different forms, Socratic seminars, reflective thinking. So just this is really there. You don't have to model any of yours after this. It's just to kind of give you some pathway into developing your own rubric, right? And it doesn't have to be a professionally worded rubric. It could be in simple terms Student really gets the idea. Student struggling with the idea, but made a lot of progress today. You know, like that kind of thing, right? So what I want you to do is take some time now. I'm going to let you go. Take some time and just kind of digest this, because I just hit you with a lot of stuff in a short period of time. Take some time and digest. Tomorrow, I'm going to post up a discussion thread, and it'll be open for a week. That discussion thread is going to ask you to list a couple of different ideas that you're having for this assessment, and some other things. Yeah, I don't want to get too far into that, but you'll be commenting and giving feedback to other students, and they'll be giving feedback to you. And then that's going to hopefully help you flesh out any details. And then the second one, just to kind of steal my own thunder a little bit, the second discussion thread the week after is going to ask you to give like a little preliminary breakdown of your assessment, and then other students are going to give you feedback on it so that you can strengthen your activity. All right. So, because I find that the collaboration piece is really, really a huge benefit. And when you become a teacher, you know, you're actually in a classroom, that's the one thing that very often is lost. You know, you're very often left to fend for yourself. And so if you can kind of develop these connections and ability to articulate your thoughts now, that's going to help you significantly down the line, I promise. All right, so I'm going to